I've seen her fabulous work, and not only is it beautiful and exquisite and unique, I love the fact that it goes toward a charity, which is so unusual for a designer to donate all the proceeds.
And so what charity are you interested in?
Texas Association Against Sexual Assault.
This is what's so exciting about the whole thing. It's the adding of the charities. It's that people spend the time and take the time to write it down and they think about it. And so we've got the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault.
It's an organization that helps provide rape crisis center funding and sexual assault prevention and intervention programs.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how did you first hear about that?
Well, no, I'm a victim myself, so I became involved with the organization, and we have a not-for-profit group that really works on helping other victims speak up and speak out about sexual assault.
We are the only domestic violence shelter within the city of Houston, and we are the Rape Crisis Center for Houston. This is our counseling area here, and we do counseling here 6 days a week, group and individual counseling. We do 35 different groups. So we do children, we do adults, those who are affected by domestic violence, and those who are also affected by sexual assault. So we did about 7,000 counseling visits last year.
7,000 last year. Wow.
Last year, about 6,900, yeah.
And is the focus just on women or?
Women, men are
Okay.
also victims of sexual assault as
Okay.
well as domestic violence.
Okay.
It's not as common, and we don't see as many of those, obviously. But yes, we deal with everyone.
Wow.
Take care of everyone, and certainly children are sometimes victims. Sometimes they are observers, so they're affected. So they may not be, if they're in a domestic violence situation, their mom may be the one who's being abused, but they're a part of that dynamic, and so they need to be worked with also. Most of our clients do come to us. This is actually this is the teen room. Actually, children's room, teen room.
So what happens in here?
One of the great ways of working with kids around these issues is through art. So you can see some of their artistic expressions. There are some of the other activities here. Sometimes if you can draw what you're feeling, and it's easier than talking about what you're feeling, and so that starts the conversation. Here's just one of the counseling rooms.
Okay.
And we have different size groups. Some are larger, some are smaller. This would be actually, if every seat were full, this would be a pretty large group. So they just pull them into the shape that they want. There's a trained counselor that works with the women or men, and they come back. A lot of the therapeutic value of this comes from being supported by peers. So being around other people and talking with other people who have been through similar experiences. So like I said, 6,900 people benefited from these services last year. We also, around here, do transitional housing. We have programs where we can help them locate and support through rental and utility assistance for 6 to 12 months, assuming that they're in school and employed.
Wow.
So it helps them. To leave a domestic violence situation isn't something you can just flip a switch and do. It really is a transition period. We support them in their efforts to really move their lives forward in a permanent way, and through the counseling and the advocacy and the shelter and other supportive services, help them build lives free from the effects of that violence. And it sometimes takes a long time. So being able to give them that security of a safe place to stay out of the violent situation is what makes the difference between success or
failure.
Yeah. This is a training room, and we do a lot of community training. In fact, earlier this week we had 50 medical school students, and 50 residents who were here getting trained on domestic and sexual violence, because obviously they're likely to come in contact with individuals who've been affected. This is the hotline. Each year we answer 43,000.
Yeah, practically they all come to the call center. We're here at this facility from 8:30 to 8:30 in the evening. After that, our phone lines are actually transferred over to our shelter facility, since that facility runs 24 hours. And we also have a answering service backup system to ensure that all calls are being answered. And the collaboration that we have with all the area hospitals is sending out an advocate and providing some of that crisis intervention and safety planning as they initially come into the emergency room. So we go out and say who we are, and are able to talk to them about our services and be able to provide support. It is common with some sexual assault survivors that they are not ready to talk, to their family or friends, and may need some privacy during those initial stages. And if they choose to have someone still accompany them who can provide some support, we're able to send out our advocates, and the service is also available 24 hours. So, and as fortunate as we are to have some of the essential resources, there's still gaps in services that we're still trying to fill, and working with partnerships and getting you guys from the media to come out and help us spread the word so that everyone knows about our needs.
Please call 2221. Please call.
We haven't made as much impact as we need to. The need is far greater than what we're able to do. I mean, as you pointed out, a city the size of Houston, there are a lot of, there's a high prevalence of this. So we reach, this many. 125 beds is not very many, which is why the shelter is full most of the time. Raising the awareness that no, it's not okay, that they're not alone, and that it's not their fault. That is what we need to do first to bring them in. There are a lot of reasons that women don't leave abusive situations. And it can be very frustrating for people, just general people, to think, well, gosh, if she's getting beat up, why doesn't she leave? Why doesn't she just leave? I'd just leave. But it's never really that simple. Individual situations are very different. They're isolated. They are made to think that it's their fault, and bit by bit, their very selves are eroded, and they don't exist anymore. So it's really hard to break out of that unless there's some sort of intervention. This woman was at our shelter in the late 80s. She's coming back for our fundraising event in a couple of weeks, and came in and filmed a little video for us about her experience. But she she had gotten married relatively young. She was in college, dropped out of college, had a daughter, or maybe she finished college, I'm not sure. Anyway, had a young daughter, 2 years old. She herself, her mother had been abused, and she lived with that as a child, and then when she was in college, met a guy, they got married. He was in medical school and became increasingly more abusive. It didn't start that way, but became increasingly more abusive. And she did finally leave and came with her daughter, a 2-year-old daughter, to the shelter. Stayed there, and she said she called the hotline, and they did safety planning with her and helped her figure out how she was going to get out. And she asked them, is there a waiting list, or can I? And they said, no, you come now. We will take care of you. You come now. And she did. And she said, if they'd said yes, there's a waiting list, I wouldn't have come, and something else would have happened, and who knows, I might still be in that relationship. So at that moment, I got the message that it's important that we find the resources to sustain these services, and that we don't ever have to tell someone there's a waiting list, because to think that would happen is just unthinkable, unbearable. So she came. She was able to access services. She finished her degree. She went into a transitional housing situation. She was in good shape. Went on to get a PhD in chemistry, and is now a manager at a very large, Fortune 500 company. And her daughter is in graduate school now, getting her PhD in child psychology. And she says, if it were not for the Houston Area Women's Center, I would not be here.
Wow, thank you.
Very powerful.
Oh, thank you.
And now she's remarried to a great guy. She has a good life. And it's good. It's all good.
Thank you.